Hi! So today we're going to do another C++ video. Today specifically we're going to be talking about classes and objects. In our last video we talked about data structures and structs where you can have different types of properties or fields that apply to a specific thing, like a person knowing their name and their age and maybe where they were born and things like that. So basically, what classes do is they expand upon this just a little bit so that besides that, you also can perform functions with them. Now, let's just do a quick step back and do a struct real quick. We'll do one with a cell phone, let's say. You have a cell phone and there's some certain things that you want to know about it. Let's say the brand of the cell phone. You want to know quantity of the screens, perhaps. Some of them have 2 screens, some only have 1 screen. And let's say color. We'll do that as well. So this is our very advanced cell phone where we know almost nothing about it. And don't forget the semicolon at the end to make it work. So now if we wanted to work with the cell phone as a struct, quite simply we would just say that we have a cell phone and it's my phone, and after that it will now exist on the stack. And we'll get more into stack and heap stuff later on. Actually, if you want to learn a whole bunch about it, there's a video I have called What Are Pointers? And it'll explain the stack, the heap, and pointers and all that fun stuff. So getting back to this, let's say we want to set our phone number of screens to, it only has 1 screen. So there we go. Now our phone has some details about it. And if you want to make a phone call, one thing you would have to do is something like this, where you would have a void function, we'll say call, and the first thing you need to pass in is a cell phone that you want to use for calling with. And our code would go here, whatever that code might be. And so we have my phone, and then we'll just do another one called their phone. And their phone happens to have 2 screens. They had a more advanced phone than I do. So now if we want to make a phone call, we would quite simply do call, and then we would say I want to do a call with my phone. And this is very generic programming, as you can see here. We don't even have functionality of how this works, but it gets the idea across. But the thing that you will see is if you have the name of this and then you always need to pass in the same struct over and over. Generally too, if you have you might have a cell phone and you want to make a call with that, or you might have a landline phone. That might be its own entire struct. And since that doesn't take cell phone as the first parameter, then you would have to probably name this something more unique, like call with cell phone. Objects basically get around this because the goal with object-oriented programming is to encapsulate or contain and put things in little buckets so that you can easily call things and know how they're working. And that is where we will expand the struct into a class. Now, if you actually do work with this a fair amount, struct and class in C++ basically mean exactly the same thing. The only difference is classes by default are private and structs are public. And we will get into that in another video dealing with permissions, so don't worry about it. Just know that you need to include public in there for now. And what we'll do here is we will include a void call, and we don't need to accept any parameters because it will have access to all of these internal things. So in our current example here with the cell phone, we'd have to do let's say For some reason, color matters when we make a phone call. Bad example, but we'll say if the color is black, then we want to do something special. Oh, look at that. That doesn't work. Well, why is that? Well, it's because color doesn't exist at this level. Color of what? And that's the point. There is no color yet. We would have to use the phone and then dot color to be able to access its color. Now, if we do this one inside of a class itself, you will see how it differs. This has access to all of the elements of its structure or of its class. So what we can do here is we can just say if the color equals black, then do, well, whatever it's supposed to do. Now, you can see that the color it's going to reference is the color of this, and calling it is a little bit more sophisticated. Instead of having to always pass in my phone, what we do is we would just say my phone.call, and it is a member of the class itself, but you need to include the parentheses to show that it's a function rather than a variable. So, and that's it. That is really the bare bones basics of this. Now, there are better ways to set this up, but I think this gives a good high-level overview. Now, one question that people have is, what is the difference between a class and an object, or an instance of an object, where this would be an instance of an object, and this would actually be just the class itself. And the way I like to think about it is the class itself is almost like a blueprint. Let's say you have a blueprint of a car, and it says, well, how many wheels does it have? Well, it has 4 wheels because it's a car. And what color is the car? Well, you have a spot for that, and the color can vary depending on the actual car itself. So you can't drive a blueprint, though. You can look at it and you know everything about the vehicle, but you can't actually drive it. Whereas the instance, whether it's a car or a cell phone, you can actually do something with it because it is not just the blueprint, it's the actual item itself. So that's really all I had for you. It's pretty straightforward. This is just a real basic introduction to classes. We'll get into the more advanced stuff down the road, but I hope you enjoyed this video, and we look forward to seeing you in the next one.